This episode of Made in America is brought to you by America's Inventor Lady and Home Talk USA. Home Talk is a proud member of the King's Broadcasting Network, which has been bringing you the best in home-based innovation since 1998.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America.
This segment is brought to you by the law offices of R.P. Baraska. RPB law offices have been bringing corporate-level legal expertise to the independent inventor community for more than 20 years. For all your inventing legal needs, trust rpblawoffices.com.
Welcome, America. That's right. This is the Made in America show here on Made in America Radio on the King's Broadcasting Network. And we want to welcome all of our listeners that was just tuning into that great Invent America show and all these great topics that we discussed. So I want to welcome all of you. And now I'd like to welcome the co-host of the Invent America show here on the Made in America, Miss Inventor Lady herself, Miss Rita Crompton. Miss Rita, what a great show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
I tell you what, I got some great guests that topics that were talked about in Invent America, but hey, now we want to help Made in America because America makes things now. And so what's going on since last week? I know we talked about last week ASD. We had some legislative issues that we had to talk about. We took care of that. So we're just streaming on, and it looks like the tariff situation kind of like leveled off a little bit, and things are getting to where, manufacturers know, the rules of the game. And now we got to get the people at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to kind of join the program. You know what I mean?
I do. And, I enjoy my part of this because I get to pick the different manufacturers who are manufacturing in America, tell their stories. It's inspiration for the other folks that say, I can go out and I can find Made in America, or I can be part of Made in America by manufacturing my products here. And where people think, oh, everything is made in another country. No, it's not. There's actually a lot of Made in America here, and a lot of it is coming back. And sometimes going out and finding that technology is very inspirational, and I love being able to tell the stories.
And it's amazing. I can remember, 2 or 3 years ago, we was at the trade show, and I'm only looking at the trade shows because that's where, we get majority of our guests and our topics. But man, it was disappointing. I reported on this show, especially at the International Building Show. China must have took up 3/4 of the building. Last year, half the building. This year, 25% of the building. So what that's telling you, Rita? Oh, yeah. They're getting it. They're getting it, ain't it?
Yep. It's making a difference. And, sometimes we learn lessons the hard way. I know when, we were trying to change out some lighting and everything, and I, went in and looked and, didn't really even think about, what was saying on the label, and it didn't work. Or it crashed down into the sink. It just was. So I went back into the building store and I said, I want something that you are doing here. So if I have to bring it back to you, you can say, oh yeah, let us give you a full refund. You can't do that when you're buying on one of those social media places, that e-commerce stuff, when it's being shipped in from China. It costs you more to send it back than it did to pay for it. So you've got to be able to go and find products that are right here on the ground so that if you have to take them back, you can. And people don't know unless somebody tells them.
But the protection issues that we talk about on this show, I can remember when I started doing this 10, 12 years ago, when I noticed that all these foreigners were coming in with their cameras at the trade show, taking pictures. What you thought they were taking pictures of? To steal it. And I could never understand why the American manufacturer would allow to go abroad and allow their technology to be stolen. What you think was going to happen? And then the following year, they were duplicating and have nerve to come back in the United States and try to sell the product as a knockoff with the manufacturer sitting right there in the hall and no protection. No protection at all. That's the point.
Yeah, one of the guys that would licensed his product to a large manufacturer, and they took it overseas and made it, and then a few years later they saw a very inexpensive knockoff coming in, and it's one of the questions that the licensees ask now is, do you have international protection? Because you file in those the PCT in those different countries, and it gives you a chance to at least say no, you can't do that. And the weird thing is that you file in China, they enforce it in China. You don't file it in China, they don't care.
And that's the point. They could steal technology and you got no protection. Here in the United States, you have protection, but what you have to understand, there's a cost for that protection. And that's, United States can compete with any country on God's earth if the playing rules are the same. They can compete because we invent, we don't counterfeit, we don't steal. Everything's being stolen, and that's the bottom line. But what does it worth to the American consumer? Okay, you want clean air, right? You want decent wages, right? You want a protected manufacturing environment, right? All this comes with a cost. Where in China, you don't have that. You don't have no protection. As a matter of fact, if they don't like what you're doing, they just take you out in the back and you won't see you again. Where's Uncle Bob? Well, he's not here anymore. Where he went? He's on assignment. Yeah, he's on assignment. It's probably 12 feet under. That's his assignment. But it's a fact of life. They don't, the whole different, like Rita, we say that term, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And that's what you got to understand that. But I proved that the American consumer will respond and buy American products if they're given a reason to buy it, right? The bullet points that they need to understand that if they purchase that American product, this is what's going to happen in their community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And, for a lot of manufacturers, when they look at manufacturing overseas versus here, sometimes, it's just the numbers. When we look at the numbers, failure rate versus cost. I know that, one of the ladies that did a flagpole. All right, nobody's going to pay $175 for a flagpole, but that was the estimate she was given in the U.S. We went to China, we got an estimate, $6.75. It came all nicely boxed on a pallet, and they were shipping the aluminum from the U.S. to China to make it. Something's wrong with that scenario.
Yep.
And so it's hard to figure it out sometimes, but she wanted to make them in the US. She wanted it. But the numbers, everybody lives by the numbers.
Well, just like your last guest, that's going to be your guest coming up also, Ian Osborne, he has a track record. He has a blueprint. He's been through the wars. He laid out, and then all he did was just carbon copy with his success. And that's all you can basically do. You can do just copy it. Why change something that's successful if you already wrote the rules or you already got that blueprint to get your product from the thought stage to the distribution stage or the licensing stage, whatever way you want to choose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting the way folks learn their lessons and they get things going. And we love being able to share the stories because there's so many folks that, they're right here in our own backyard, and we want to be able to talk about, successes and share them with, with our listeners so that our listeners can say, I want this one because it's made in America.
Well, when you have a blueprint, you bypass the mistakes. Will there be mistakes? Of course. But at the end of the day, the less you can control your mistakes, let's face it, Rita, we talked about this. Mistakes cost money, and that's the bottom line. So if we can help you, guide you, advise you, then there's a good chance that if you just listen to the blueprint, as I keep saying, then there's a good chance that you're not going to make all the vital mistakes that some of our manufacturers and our entrepreneurs have made. And unfortunately, we talked about them. Sometimes we get them at the end when they don't have any more money.
Yeah.
You know, have any more money.
That is for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Rita, we got about a minute left, and tell you, I'm excited to have Ian on the show and tell his story. And but hey, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back. This is the Made America Show here on the Made America Radio on the King's Broadcasting Network. Don't forget, we stream live each week, every week at HometalkUSA.com. Check us out on our website. You can catch the podcast, archives, all our sponsors. And look, let's face it, by helping to patronize all our great sponsors, basically keeps our show on the air, since none of our guests are charged to be on this radio program. And that's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to take a short break. Y'all stay with us. We're going to be right back. Y'all come back now. You hear?
This segment is brought to you by SearchQuest Patent Search. SearchQuest provides for a comprehensive patent search that searches the entire world and not just the U.S. Patent Office. Make sure that before you spend those big bucks having a patent written, you've done your due diligence by getting a comprehensive patent search. Use SearchQuestPatents.com for all your patent search needs. They scour the world for you.
Thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. It is wonderful to tell the stories of all of our folks who are actually manufacturing on U.S. soil. This segment is brought to you by Product Quick Start. Noah McNeely does a lot of the manufacturer's prototypes and the getting products teed up for manufacturing anywhere in the world. He is the guy that we go to. So if you're out there thinking about getting something made and you want to look at the options of manufacturing right here in America, give Noah McNeely with Product Quick Start a call. And if you need him, let me know, because I have got his phone number. So my guest for this segment of Made in America is Ian Osborne. He helps a lot of our inventors do that first proof of concept prototype. But Ian is an inventor himself and manufactures in America. Ian, you were at one point part of big tech and, big science, the way I look at it. And now you're an independent inventor manufacturing in the U.S. Tell our listeners about you.
I am a grandfather of 3. I have been married 36 years this year. I am a pilot as well, and I love to think of things outside of the box and come up with products that either are old-fashioned but need an extremely new twist on them, or just brand new things in general.
So what's I know you can't share everything about your background, but what was some of the big science that you were into?
Wow. I have designed and developed some security systems for government entities, and I have designed and developed other products that are utilized around the world for other entities as well. Some of those entities I cannot talk about, never will be able to, but that is what the nature of the beast is when you're an inventor, and sometimes you get pulled in to do some things. They are fun and exciting.
So what were some of the first things you did as an independent inventor?
I designed and developed what I'm going to call a miniature puck light that is less than 3/4 inch of an inch in square space, but it puts out over 350 lumens of light. And when I did that 24 years ago, everybody said, oh, you can't produce more than like 5 lumens of light output. I broke the mold and I put out 55 lumens right off the bat. Everybody else is only doing 5 lumens, and I cornered the market, and I've been producing the product ever since. And we've gone from the 65 lumens, we are now pushing well over 300 lumens at less than a watt of power. So our consumption is significantly less than anybody else out there. Our product dims down to 1%. All the other product out there dims down to 10%. So we have a pretty significant marketplace in what we do. We've got them installed in hospitals around the world. We've got the product installed in various countries. And I have just piggybacked that technology, and I do everything in what I'm going to call a building block formation. I build one product that can be utilized 10 different ways. So everything is modular based so that we can expand and retract based upon what the product needs to do for that particular client.
So how did you start manufacturing? What was the process you went through?
I had some parts manufactured here in the States, and then when the product went ballistic, I made the mistake in the long run of going to China for getting my product manufactured. That lasted a year and a half. The product came in predominantly in container loads, and out of 10 containers, one container was completely junk because they don't have a quality control process overseas like we have the capability of doing it here. And so we spent most of our profit fixing an entire container load of product. So between my father, my grandfather, myself, we came up with a process of being able to manufacture all of our product here in the United States. Cut out the middleman, so to speak. We have no more customs to deal with. We have no more wait time to deal with. We're waiting for a container for, shipping 3 to 6 months to get to us. And everything is here, and we're bringing business to local states and local cities so that they can actually get a piece of the pie.
So I don't mean to mumble here, but it was the failure rate of the product coming in.
Yeah.
That made you say, our profit is all caught up in the failure rate. So if it costs a little bit more or less failure rate, the company was still now able to make money.
Yeah, it's funny because, bottom line, every company wants to be able to make money. That's the whole point, is to be able to make money. Our process was we want to be able to make the money, but share in the rewards, so to speak, with other people. And that was all going to China and all going back into fixing the product that was screwed up. And they were simple mistakes, but it made the product completely useless. So, we took a different standpoint. Every place that manufactures my product currently, I have the ability to walk in, watch the line, watch the workers, and make sure that the things are going the way that they're supposed to go. And if there's any bottlenecks, we figured out. There was a lot of bottlenecks in the beginning, but my father and I literally designed and developed fixtures so that the work that was being done in an assembly format can be done quickly and efficiently if they had a fixture. So we were designing fixtures on the fly to be able to make manufacturing faster, which then brought the price point down, which gave us more profit, which gave them more business, and we sold more product faster.
So it's amazing how it can work when you actually go through the steps of manufacturing something in America, where, like you said, you can walk in and see how it's being done and actually help them do it more efficiently.
Yeah, and it's fast, because if I had to go to China, it would cost thousands of dollars in airfare, plus hotel, plus food, and then having to find a person that can translate for me. It just adds the cost in there too. The people don't realize that actually adds a cost, because when you're talking to their engineers don't speak English, but the person that is a salesperson, they are bilingual, but a lot of times the translation factor would actually cause problems.
Oh, and they use a different measuring system than we do. So, that could be really a nightmare. So we are going to take a break and go pay some bills. Stick with us. We will be right back to find out more about Ian Osborne and what he's doing.
If you're an inventor or you know an inventor out there who would just like to be able to have a conversation with other inventors, Join the Inventors Roundtable. It's free. The meetings are virtual, so you can be anywhere in America and talk to another inventor. And for a lot of folks out there, understanding the process, being able to ask questions, getting good service provider information is critical to the inventing process. So, got questions? Want to join? It's free. inventorsroundtable.org.
And thank you for being with us for this segment of Made in America. And my guest is my longtime friend, Ian Osborne. I've known you for 20 years or so, Ian?
20 plus years.
20 plus years since I was kicking you under the table saying, stop talking, stop talking.
Yep.
So over the years, what has been your biggest challenge?
I guess I have two challenges. I do things extremely outside the box. And when people look at it, they go, yeah, that just doesn't compute, but I want one anyway. and then, the other thing is sometimes it's actually manufacturing. I do a lot of custom in-house manufacturing. So not only do I have two shops, but I also have external shops that do some of my builds, very specific builds for specific products that I know for a fact will actually produce the product exactly the way I want it. And they know how I think out of the box. And so they always come up with ways to be able to accommodate my strange, wild ideas so that they can actually make the product. Because they want to be able to make the product for me because they get a piece of the pie at the same time.
So, you've been doing this for a while now. How did you get into the marketplace? How did you get your wild ideas, your little miniature lighting systems into the marketplace?
I actually was doing a government contract, and in the process of doing the contract, the military asked for something, and I was like, that can probably be done. And after the military aspect of things, I came back, to home, so to speak, and I walked into a shop, and what was funny was that I had actually designed and developed a product. It's UL listed. I was selling it, and I walked into this gentleman's shop, and I wanted to ask him about doing a project for me, some contract manufacturing for me. And on the floor was a device, and I looked at the device and picked it up because the guy was on the phone, busy on the phone. And I picked up the box and I started looking at it. I was like, I'll be damned. That's my product. So he had knocked off the product. This was before I ever learned, about what you do in your, in the Inventors Roundtable and all that, and patenting. I didn't think of any of that product, didn't know how to do any of the patenting process. And I looked at this product and I was like, wow, that's mine. And I knew for a fact it didn't work. And after the guy got off the phone, he looked at me, and goes, do you know what that is? I'm like, yep. And I can tell you that it doesn't work. He goes, yeah, you're right. It keeps failing on us. And I said, I'll make you a deal. I will be the exclusive manufacturer of this product for you. And I have all rights of manufacturing, and I get to do it my way, and I will just produce it. And he signed the contract, not really knowing that I was the actual designer and inventor of the product. So it worked out in the end for me where, once the contracts were signed and in place, I pretty much locked him in for, 5 years of manufacturing the product. So we now have a fully remote controlled, dimmable, and multifunctional outdoor landscaping device that's been out in the marketplace for 24 years now. Since then, I've learned what to patent and what not to patent based on the marketplace and how fast I can get the product out there. And as long as I can keep my price point down, nobody can touch the products. they can try it, but then they're more expensive, but then people still come back to me, which is nice. So, and I didn't patent them, but then I also have multiple patents on other products.
So in all of this time, what has been the biggest surprise?
I guess two things. Sometimes some products that I see that should be out there everywhere, everybody using them, are still struggling. And then other products that were on a whim, I guess, so to speak, are flooding the market. It's weird. People buy odd things, and I try to find those odd things to come up with to be able to make. And it's still surprising to this day where I have some products that are slower to the marketplace, so to speak, and others that are crazy. It's weird.
So what has been the biggest disappointment?
Having a patented product being infringed upon by 3 multi-billion-dollar companies and trying to be able to get them to just, I don't want to stop them infringing, but I want a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And Congress, or not Congress, but the good old government kind of stopped that with the PTAB, where I can't really say anything, because if I say something, they'll just shut my patent down and make it as if I never even had the patent, and I get nothing regardless. I mean, right now I have nothing, but the whole goal is to get PTAB, knocked away so that people like me, tiny guys, can actually have a place in the market.
Yeah, that's been a tough one, and it's been around since 2013.
Yep.
So a lot of your business time that you've been out there has been part of that whole problem. So all right, so tell us about the golf product.
So people have learned that they can actually have a blast of an entertainment venue at golf courses by golfing at night. This is only year 2 of its infancy, and the biggest thing is that with night golf, the first generation night golf night golf ball was invented in 1984 with a side loom light stick. You break it, shake it, shove it inside of the golf ball, and you got a little miniature glowing golf ball. The problem with that was that it would last 12 hours or less because of the amount of chemical in the teeny 1-inch stick size of a golf ball. It would die. So here it is, 3 years ago, Japanese, Chinese technology. They shove a battery and a micro switch with a spring inside of a golf ball. You smack the golf ball as hard as you can. It makes it light up for 15 minutes and then shuts off. The drawback with that is you hit the ball, and by the time you get out to where the ball is, you can't see it because it's shut off due to the spring, and it's not contacted anymore. So a gentleman invented a golf ball that glows in the dark, and the problem was they had no way of actually charging the actual golf ball. So I invented multiple machines that can take any golf ball up to a 3,000 quantity and supercharge them in 90 seconds flat, and they'll glow for 14 hours. And they can be recharged over and over and over and over again. So the golf ball, in this case, the golf balls are beat to a smithereens and thrown in the trash, but they still have the capability of glowing. But the technology that we utilize is proprietary and is patented in the way that we do it.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to go pay some bills, and then we'll be right back to wrap up this hour of Made in America and ask Ian a few more questions about his process and what he has accomplished. So if you know anybody out there who is manufacturing in America and would like to brag a little bit, please have them get in touch, because you know what? These Mondays roll around, there's 52 a year. So we have got to be able to get people on who can tell their story. And it doesn't cost anything for them to get on and brag a little bit and give us their website. Wild Ideas Light Co. is Ian Osborne's website, and you can go and learn more about him. So, you know what? Stick with us. We will be right back for some more Made in America.
Introducing the amazing new Snoozle. It sprays faster, lasts longer. Ask for Snoozle by name.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. And my guest is Ian Osborne. He is an inventor, a U.S. Made in America man. Ian, what are some of the challenges you faced and conquered?
Actually getting product manufactured at a good price point so that I am actually making something and not losing everything. Being able to see the differences of what people enjoy based upon the actual reality of the product that we manufacture.
So, how have you seen your product vary over the years? I mean, a lot of people, the way they stay ahead of the game is that they keep updating their product. How have you seen things change with technology?
For me, the actual electronic components are becoming more and more refined. They're getting smaller. They're actually providing a higher quality of life, which in the very beginning, the quality of life was, 90 days. And we have some products that we manufacture that we give a 10-year warranty on. So the actual build, we have gotten to the point where we have made a product that can withstand the abuse of the industry of what the product is made for. And we've been able to give a 10-year warranty. Competition, 5-year warranty. So, we're proud of the things that we've done, and we continue to strive. And, like I said earlier, we are a modular based process. We make a module that can do multi-functions or become part of multi-products. And by doing that, we've hardened the electronics or hardened the actual part so that it will actually last longer and be able to go into more parts. Pieces and parts make up a whole. And that's how we look at it.
There you go. There you go. So what advice do you have for other folks that are, kind of caught in that dilemma of, getting teed up for manufacturing, having to decide, US or somewhere else?
You need to look at all the variables that are out there. You want a good ROI on your product. But the biggest thing is how we look at it is we look at the manufacturing capabilities of America first and foremost. I want to have a product that's, made in America. And if I can make it in my state, that's even better. Made in America and made in such and such, California, New York, whatever. The idea with that is that there are ways and there are companies in every state that businesses that they need to make money. And as an inventor, I look for those businesses, and other inventors need to look for those businesses that are out there in small towns that they don't even know about, but they can make the part for them. And the coolest thing about that is we're making it in America. We don't have to deal with any customs. We don't have to deal with any, unforeseen, fees that get tacked on at the last minute before we can actually get the product out of a box, coming from overseas. People need to understand that, Americans want a good quality product. We need to change the format of being a throwaway nation to a nation of the 30s, 40s, and 50s where our product still lasts, and it lasts for years, not, months.
I agree with you. I mean, it used to be you bought a refrigerator, it would last until your kids left for college. And, now if you can get it to last 4 or 5 years, you're lucky.
Yep.
And same thing with, computers, TVs, phones. It's like they design them now for wearing out.
Yep.
And I mean, that's how often did you, when you were growing up, you had a car that lasted, for 20 years. And now, it's like everybody turns around and they've got a new car every time, every 3 or 4 years. It's ridiculous.
Yep. If they built them like they used to in the old days, we would still have them around.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And I notice it too that there are companies that yeah, they've got a main line, but they're looking for additional projects. They're looking for additional things to manufacture in their facilities so that they can stay running full time. And sometimes it's like, all right, who makes something that's in this textile, this same material that I can go and talk to? And you're right, they might be in the town next door or the state next door, and you could then say made in America.
Yeah. And I think that's the one of the high points that people fail to realize is that there are places you can go in your own town that you would never have thought of, because everybody pushes, oh, get it made in China, it's cheaper, it's faster. It's like, nope, it's not. And if we ever have any kind of a scenario like 9/11 again, all ports will be shut down for months, half a year to a year or longer, and you will be getting no product in or out. So if you make your product here, you've got it where everybody else is going to be going, oh, well, my business just closed its doors because I can't get the product anymore.
There you go, everybody. Made in America. It is amazing how many things can be and should be made right here in our own backyard. So don't overlook the opportunity. Buy Made in America when you can. It will last longer. Make in America when you can, because you know what? We need to look out for each other. We are all in this together.